Hello, Alex Genov. Welcome to the Doing CX Right show.
Hi, Stacy. Good to be here.
I am excited about today with you because doing CX right requires it being intentional. It requires really walking the talk. And you and the brand that you work for actually are the real deal. So I'm so happy you're here. And let's start off with tell the audience, who are you? What do you do?
That's a great question, Stacy. Who am I? I don't know if I really know who am I. Do we really know who we are?
We think we do. Yes.
You probably should ask, my wife, my kids, they're going to get different answers. Who am I? So Alex Genov, I head up customer research at Zappos. And also, I'm a family man, married. We live in Las Vegas, which is the entertainment capital of the world. We also have 2.4 beautiful children, and little Nicholas is 0.4. And I keep telling him, he's going to grow up to be a 1.0 human being. I was 0.4 when I was growing up. So I can do this little comedy bit for a while. But it is related to what I really care about, which is applying my social psychology background to now helping organizations understand customers as people. And that's one of my main roles at Zappos. And what I've been trying to convey in the past few years is the need for this balance between looking at numbers, right? And a lot of organizations are focused on that, and understanding customers as people and balancing that.
Ooh, that's a really good topic, especially because I was on a call before around how it was all data driven. And I was the speaker bringing the heart to the conversation. So you're definitely touching a chord for me right now. I wish you were on that call with me. So, why? Why do you care so much about this?
I mean, because who knows what sparked my interest in psychology? I'm originally from Bulgaria, and back in the day, I studied for a year in this Institute of Economics back in the day, and then I decided to come over to the States, and I picked psychology, and it was, I mean, I can't explain why. I was interested in how the mind works and humans in general, and so what makes us tick. So then I came and started studying psychology as an undergraduate, and then continued on to graduate school, only because I was on a foreign student visa and I had to keep my status, not that I wanted to keep studying for psychology for 10 years. But that's, it's hard to explain, but I'm interested in the human side of things. And I also see the need to have this counterpoint in a way, or this complementary point to our emphasis on data and algorithms and so on, to bring the other side. Because I'm always striving for balance. And I think if we just say numbers are everything and algorithms are going to solve everything, I think that's the balance gets off kilter. If the balance is tipped the other way and say we only have to understand emotions and humans and individual people, that's not going to work for the business setting either. So somewhere in the middle, and I'm trying to bring that balance a little bit.
What's one fun fact people might not know about you?
Fun fact, I'm a big fan of Shaolin Kung Fu, and I studied Shaolin Kung Fu here in Vegas. There's a Shaolin master that I've been studying under for 6 years now. And I've also been to Shaolin Temple 3 times, studying there and training. And even one time they ordained us as disciples, which we totally did not deserve to be ordained as disciples after a week of training. It takes about 10 plus years, 20 years. But that's a fun fact, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. So let's get to the heart of the conversation here about customer experience. You speak right about innovation. How do you define innovation?
Great question, Stace. This my perspective on innovation was really influenced by a comment I heard, a very insightful comment from a panelist years ago at a conference, and that person, I don't even remember the person's name now, but he distinguished between innovation and invention, and that to me that struck a chord with me. And the way he defined invention was creating something new, something exciting, something that hadn't existed before, maybe technical, maybe otherwise. But its invention is different from innovation in the sense that for something to be an innovation, and that's according to this definition, of course, but it has to have a real impact for people's lives and for the business. So only when an invention starts having a real impact and solves an important problem, then it becomes innovation. So I kind of have a pet peeve with, obsession with things that really innovation that is driven by technology. So technology first, for example, which to me is the cart before the horse, and things that are in a way solving pseudo problems, if you will, right? That, I mean, you can argue with that, but there's a lot of these startups that solve the problem of overcrowded inbox, or your email mailbox is full, and they have innovations to solve that, right? There's a host of those so-called innovations. I personally have a problem with that because I'm always thinking from the customer perspective. Is it really a problem for people? How many people have this problem? And then if you solve it, is it going to make people's lives easier? How many people are going to be affected? And can that propel meaningful businesses as well?
Do you believe that Zappos is a good model around innovation? We know they're best in class. Is that where you're really learning about what innovation means? And is that what's part of what makes them so great?
Absolutely, Stacey. I think Zappos is so well known and such a great company, and a great business because early on and even now they innovate. They're based on innovation. I think one of the additional points that I should touch upon in terms of innovation is that there's different types of innovation. There's technical innovation, but there's also business innovation on business models. There's innovation on how you just run the business. So here's to me what made Zappos early on. It was this genius insight, I think, that what will differentiate Zappos in the early days is going to be reliance on customer service, focus on customer service. And it's these really counterintuitive moves that propel businesses. That's one of them, where in a world where even now the vast majority of companies, I believe, consider customer service to be a necessary uh, part, but something to be, a cost to be minimized, right, and marginalized and so on. So that trickles down and results in a lot of decisions that then affect the customer negatively. Instead, what Zappos decided early on was, Tony Hsieh and the company basically decided, people are gonna buy shoes elsewhere too, right? And the dominant mode was, and even nowadays is in store. So they said, why would people come to Zappos? What we're gonna do is we're gonna make customer service our top priority. So that counterintuitive thinking, I think, led to the success. Just like in other areas, like for example, Zappos is part of Amazon, and one of the most successful businesses within Amazon is Amazon Prime. And that was another counterintuitive move to say we're going to create a program, loyalty program, where people are going to pay to participate, right? And again, it's or even this Amazon really brilliant move early on by Jeff Bezos to say, you know what, when they created their online platform, which was like an online store, they said, you know what, we're going to give our competitors space on our shelves to sell their stuff. Right? And then again, people said that was crazy. But those counterintuitive moves are the ones that pay off in the long run. So to answer your question, yes, Zappos is based on innovation, and now even more so than before. For example, after the pandemic hit, Zappos not only survived but thrived because it was online, set up for online. And then very quickly, Zappos pivoted to help their vendors and help their partners in the sense they would start coming up with alternative business models, not just wholesale, but also drop ship, consignment, and all these other models, so that they would help their partners with inventory issues, with supply chain issues, very, very quickly. That pivot happened.
So, what could other companies, small and big, learn from Zappos?
I think they can learn a lot. And, we have a group within Zappos called Zappos Insights. And before the pandemic, companies and individual people would tour Zappos, come to learn from Zappos. It was almost like a university for this kind of success with culture and with focus on the customer. But the main, I think, lessons are, well, number one, focus on the customer. And not only on the customer, but focus on your relationship with your vendors, with your business partners. At the end of the day, it really boils down to human relationships, right? The relationship with your suppliers, with your vendors, with your employees, and with your customers, and with the community. So these are the four pillars for Zappos is the commerce part, it's the customer, it's the community, and the culture. So these are the four pillars. But at the end of it, at the bottom of it is all relationships.
Yes, I agree. It comes down, data again is important, but it's the relationship, it's the communication that makes brands win, and it's in our control. That's
Right.
right. It doesn't require a lot of money to communicate and to appreciate people and your customers and keep it real.
Exactly. And in terms of just company culture, to your point, it's the little things. It's not really big, expensive programs. So I'll give you a couple examples from Zappos. Back again before the pandemic, where everybody was on campus and the culture was really vibrant and in person. Every team had a budget that we had to spend on eating and drinking together as a team every month. Right? So that was almost like a requirement. You know what I mean? So go spend this money to have fun and to bond. So that's one. So now it's moved a little bit when we're working from home. It transitioned to the digital realm. So now we have these online lunches and we get delivery. So we have some money to order some food, and we still sit around, and it's not the same, of course, but the spirit is the same. And then little rituals, daily rituals that Zappos has. There's automated email that comes out every day with every employee's on that day birthdays or anniversaries, work anniversaries. So simple. It comes out And then it's up to everybody to do whatever they want with that. But I, for example, take time to just say happy birthday and happy anniversary, even to people that I haven't met, I don't know personally, right? But still, it creates this. Then I get a thank you. And then when I see them, they, recognize me and say, oh, thank you for sending me this email, right? And so that creates the bond. It's these little things.
Yeah. Micro moments.
Exactly.
Micro moments. You talk a lot about stuck in traffic. Brands and leaders are stuck in traffic. What does that mean?
Well, I don't know if I talk a lot about it. Years ago, I wrote this little piece on LinkedIn. It was quite literally about traffic, and it was in the. I think the way like you phrase it, it feels like I'm using it metaphorically. I mean, when I wrote this, I wrote it literally, and it was in the context again of innovation. Is innovation solving important problems? Problems important for society, problems important for business on a larger scale. So that was the idea, and the idea was more of a rhetorical question. Why aren't we solving the problem of traffic versus other things that
Mm-hmm.
sound fun? I have a pet peeve about the cart before the horse, right? There's a new technology, and now people are excited about it. They say, now how can we apply it, right? And then let's innovate, but it's not based on necessarily on first understanding an important problem or jobs to be done. This framework by Clayton Christensen is one of my favorites. What job is this solving for people? And if it's not done starting from the customer need or an important business need, then it feels contrived. And things like chatbots, again, it's a technology now. Let's see where you can plug it in, right? And it becomes this annoying kind of Clippy like experience, just a different, more modern version of Clippy. But again, I think the root cause is we have this technology now. How can we use it?
Well, going back to your traffic scenario, it is symbolic of pain points. I mean, traffic anywhere is a pain point. The question is, how do company leaders really understand their customer pain points? What's your view on that?
I mean, I don't speak to all company leaders. I've worked for several big and small companies, and all of them have been customer centric to one extent or another. And so, for example, Intuit, they are one of the most customer centric companies out there. They're known for their research and for UX and so on. And it's driven by leadership. And Scott Cook was the founder, was the one who initiated a really interesting back in the day. I mean, this was many, many years ago, who knows, maybe 30 years ago, when he founded QuickBooks and or Quicken back in the day. So personal financial organization software. It was based, of course, that's pre-internet. It was based on CDs, and like a big part of the folklore at Intuit was the time when he released Quicken, and he would go to the store and observe when somebody picked up the box, and then he would approach them and ask them, "Can I come home with you to see how are you using it?" So these are, I mean, in research that's called contextual inquiry, or you know, a form of ethnographic research, but it was modeled by the founder of the company, and then it became part of the DNA of the company. So Zappos is the same way. When everybody joins Zappos, and again, my experience was pre-pandemic. All of us spent a whole month in intense customer service training. Think about it. You join a company, regardless of your rank or whatever you did before. So when I did my new hire training, we had about 40, 45 people. Some had been in the food industry in Vegas, servers, waiters, waitresses. Some had been VPs and in other companies. In that moment, that didn't matter what you were before. You were just an individual. And on the second day, we got on the phones helping customers, and it's the most humbling experience. That's how, one of the ways in which every Zappos employee would get in touch with the customer, understand customer pain points. And then later on, everybody has to spend about 10 hours every year around holidays on the phones. So we call it holiday help. The CEO is there, everybody's there. So I think it's just a matter of a mindset to say, let's understand customers. And then the activity itself, you can come up with a lot of activities to do that.
I love those examples. And I also believe that it's easy, you have to be intentional to pay attention. Look, people are saying on social media and ratings and review sites, in addition to what you're collecting in a methodical way,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
So
And
it's
exactly.
available.
And so that's the more of a passive collection of feedback, because people are talking about companies, especially social media is the natural platform for that. Conversations are happening. But then also within a company, so at Zappos, for example, we have a voice of the customer program, and we intentionally started it. And we've been on a journey 7+ years to develop it, to start collecting feedback, and then to evolve it to start using text analytics. So this one case where we cannot do it without AI, right? And the bigger the data set, the better, because you get more signal and less noise. And we've been on a journey to do that, now to the point where our executives are reading comments. Our CEO is reading comments every week and encouraging executives to take them seriously, and also encouraging us to kind of strive for this balance, because again, you can tip the balance if you just read the comments, and you cannot go and start investing and changing the software based on one or two comments, right? Sometimes the comments are even saying something like your checkout sucks. Like, you cannot such comments go and start changing checkout. You have to really first understand what really happened. So you have to connect that comment to see what actually happened during that session, understand the root cause, and then estimate how big that problem is, how many people have that issue. And then that will help the businesses prioritize the work. So that is what we're in the middle of right now.
Yeah, I believe it's so important to aggregate all the voice of customer channels so that you don't respond to the one offs, but rather the scalable things
Right.
and the multi channels coming together so you can prioritize. That's gold. That's how you win.
Exactly. And that's why you need to have one of the tactical things that need to be done is to connect all those dots, collect them in one database. That's the point. If it's dispersed in different databases, then you have nothing.
But for small companies who don't have Zappos budgets and other brands you've worked at and myself, you can start small. Have somebody whose role is to aggregate, even if it's manual, or use tools
Right. Right.
that
Exactly.
that scrape the internet and then really pull into some of the activities that your company's doing. I don't want people to be afraid to actually do what we're talking about. It's just start somewhere and then you evolve.
Exactly. I mean, that's a great point. To your point, the size of the company doesn't matter. The principle is the same. Put everything in one place. So let's say Zappos is a big company. It's part of Amazon. We have tens of millions of customers, right? So we have these big databases and so on. You can be a small company. All you need is an Excel spreadsheet. The principle is the same. Put everything in that Excel spreadsheet, and then the customer should be one row, and the column should be all the variables that you're collecting. It doesn't matter where you can put it in a notebook, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of the idea of hospitality as a metaphor for customer experience in general, even online. I'm a huge fan of Danny Meyer, the New York restaurant, very famous. He wrote the book Setting the Table and talks about collecting the dots so you can connect the dots. And so he is famous for creating these amazing experiences, dining experiences. That's what he did. For each customer, he would keep notes, or he would encourage employees to keep notes of their favorite foods and their anniversaries and everything. And they kept it on cue cards or piece of paper. So it doesn't matter. The end result, it's the intention is what matters.
We're coming down to the end, which came too fast as always. So I'm going to ask you my two ending questions, which
Sure.
is if I had tons of CEOs and leaders and entrepreneurs in my room right now, what's the one key takeaway you want them to remember?
I would say it's the takeaway of balance when it comes to understanding numbers and running the businesses. Balance between really the easily manageable big data, structured data, the numbers, but also balancing that with understanding of customers as human beings, as people. It's more qualitative, but to me, it's still needed. So balancing those two, once you hit that balance, I think that's when the magic is going to happen.
I agree. Yes, yes. And finally, if you could go back to your younger 20-year-old self, what would you tell younger Alex that you know now that you didn't know then?
I would say don't get too wound up about being right. I don't think that's that important. But when you're young, you're starting out, you're kind of insecure, and you feel like you need to prove you're the smartest person in the room, and you take things personally. You kind of take things too seriously. That damages relationships, and so that to me, if I would be uh, more laid back about things.
Mm. Great words of wisdom. Well, where can people find you? And I'll add links in the show notes if they want to connect.
I think LinkedIn is probably my platform. I'm a fan of LinkedIn, so there would be a good spot.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Alex, for sharing so much about doing CX right from your personal perspective as a consumer, as an employee, and as a human being in this world. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. Pleasure was all mine.